Hi everyone. So today we are going to be studying about squares and square roots. Okay. So this is not the four-sided square figure per se. We are learning squares of numbers. So we've learned in our previous sections that any integer raised to the power of 2 is called a perfect square. Okay. So if we say 2 square, okay, is 4, okay, and I will say 3 square is 9, okay. So these are the squares. Now what is square root? Okay, so to identify the number, okay, what will be squared, okay, to get a 4, okay, what will be squared to get a 9, okay, because we already did it, it's 2, okay, it's 3. So what we can say is square root. So actually it should be, this is the symbol to represent root, okay. So if we are doing square root, we usually put a 2. So square root of 4 is 2, but by default we've started using just this sign. This also means square root, okay, and square root of 9 is 3. So basically square root is the opposite of square of a number. So basically we need to identify square root means square of what number will give us this number, okay. So we need, so we can take other examples. So square root of 1, so if we square what, we'll get 1, we can say 1, okay. So basically what's square will lead to some number, okay, like 16, okay. So what we can say is this square becomes 16 and the reverse, okay, square root of 16 will become x, okay. So we'll do some examples to clarify it, okay. So usually uh like if you remember, I would suggest, like if you see on the left portion of the screen, I've written squares of the first 20 numbers. This is just good to learn to be able to help you solve questions faster. Otherwise, obviously, if there is a question of, you know, 3 square, we can always do 3 into 3, okay, or 13 square, okay. If we know, it's easier. If we don't know, we can always do 13 multiply by 13, and if we perform the multiplication, it will come out to be 169, okay. So we can always do this, but these are good to remember. This will help us to solve the questions faster. Okay. So 1, 4, 9, 4 square, 16. So 10, I think, will be more easier because we usually like have done these calculations in the tables, but probably these are a bit difficult. So just give it a try if you can. That's good. If not, that's fine too. We can still solve the questions. Okay. So now for smaller numbers we can easily remember, right? Like if we know up till 20, we can easily remember square or square root. Or if we don't remember, I've told you, we can just, because 13 square is what? 13 into 13, right? So we multiply 13 by 13, we know the multiplication and we get the answer. Okay. So if we don't memorize it, we know how to solve the squares. Now if we don't memorize it, we need to see how do we solve for the square roots, okay. So what do we do is, let's take any number. Let's take, start with a smaller number, okay. Suppose you don't know, we take with a 4, okay, start. So how can we write it? So our goal is to write it as the product of prime numbers, okay. So 2, 3, 5, 7. Basically which cannot be broken down further into the multiples of integers, right? Those are the prime numbers. So 4 can be written as a product of 2 and 2. That's it. Both the 2's are prime numbers. We cannot break it further. Okay. So we always, because square, you see, is the power of 2, right? So everywhere we see the number multiplied by itself. Okay. So we have to have powers of 2. So when we are doing square root as well, okay, so we have to see power like in pairs. Okay, so here we have a pair of 2, so we can say square root of 4 is 2, because we are looking for pairs, so it's one pair of 2, so the answer is 2. Okay, let's take another example. Okay, suppose 25. Okay, so no, it's a product of 5 and 5. We cannot break it down further. 5 is a prime number, so we say square root of 25 is, because this is one pair, 5. Okay, now let's start taking bigger numbers. Okay, so suppose 81. Okay, 81. So we know, right, like it comes in the table of 9. Okay, suppose we don't know, you think of a smaller number, suppose 3. Okay, or even you can start, suppose you remember 9. Okay, so 9 nines are 81, but 9 we know it comes in the table of 3. We can break it down further. Okay, so we do 9 is 3 by 3. Okay, and this 9 is also 3 3. So we always look at the ends of the tree. Okay, so this is the ends. Okay, so here we have one pair of 3 and the other pair of 3. So square root of 81 will be 3 into, so one pair of 3 will be 1 and another pair of 3 will be 1. So again it comes out to be 3 into 3, 9. Okay. Okay, and how do we prove that we've got the right answer? Because I told you square root is the opposite of square. So if the square root of 81 is 9, it means if we do 9 square, we should get 81. Okay, and we know 9 square is 81. 9 into 9 is 81. So we have the right answer. Let's take another example. Let's try to solve for 256. So if a number is even, then it's pretty straightforward, right? Because otherwise you have to think a little bit of which table will it go with, right? If it is ending with 5 or zeros, we usually know one of the factors will be 5, right? And if it's an even number, we'll know one of the factor is 2, right? So if it is an odd number, then we need to think a little bit of which number we can divide it with, right? Like 81, we had to think it can be 9 or 3. Okay, so for 256, right, let's try to factorize it. So 2 and then 128. Okay, so 2 cannot be done further. I think, let me try it on the bigger board. We need more space. Okay, so 256. Okay, so this we are learning how to find square root. So 2 into 128. Okay, this cannot be broken down further, but 128 is again an even number. So we do 2 into 6 into 4. Okay, 64. This again is cannot be broken down further. This is 2, 3 and 2. 2 into 32 is 64. Okay, so basically we are dividing 128 by 2, it gives 64. So 2 into 64 is 128. So now we are dividing 64 by 2. So we get 32. So 2 into 32 is 64. We divide this further. 2 ones are 2, 16. 2, 8, 2, 4, 2, 2, right? See, this one we did before. Square root of 4. It was 2, 2. Okay, we got one pair. But this is a bigger number, right? So now we just have to see the ends. Okay. So this is one end, this is one end. So we get a pair of 2 here. Okay, and we get a pair of 2 here. So why are we not considering these numbers? Because they are going further. Here they are ending at 2's, right? So we just have to consider the ends. And here there's another pair, and here there is another pair. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs. So root of 256 will be one pair of 2 into second pair of 2 into third into 4. So we have 4 pairs. So 2 2's are 4, and 2 2's are 4, 4 4's are 16. So how do we know this is correct? So square root of a number is 16, and 16 square is 256. Okay, and we have it here. Okay, so usually like these are the most commonly used ones. So if we remember, we don't have to go through this process, and solving these questions will be a little bit faster. So and we'll do more practice of these and some kind of word problems and tricks in the next class. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or doubts, please feel free to reach out to me in the comments below. Thank you.